What's going on, friends? Welcome back to another New World video. Today, we're going to be talking about housing in New World Aeternum. From level 15 onwards, everybody unlocks the ability to purchase and own a house in one of the game's 12 different player-controlled settlements. These houses do cost coin, however, especially at the higher tiers, but there are many benefits to being a homeowner in New World Aeternum. Before we go any further though, it's time for a quick word from today's sponsor. The Second Breakfast Club is all about bringing Hobbity values home and celebrating the simple things. Why not wake up to one of our single roast coffees sourced directly from fair trade cooperatives and expertly roasted just for us by our artisan partners in Norfolk? Maybe even end the day with our delicious all butter shortbread made to our very own Second Breakfast Club recipe, developed with and baked by an award-winning team in Yorkshire. They're the perfect pre-combat buff and open-world exploration snack. And for the fashionable, hairy-footed folk amongst you, check out our club member hoodies. Featuring our adventurer's cloak design, they're soft, breathable, and made from a blend of sustainable cottons and recycled polyester. The extra deep front pocket is perfect for hiding rings of power from your enemies. The Second Breakfast Club ships internationally, and visiting it is a great way to support the channel and keep the content coming. The main reasons to buy a house, and even multiple houses in New World, is the access they give you to trophies, extra storage space, and a free unlimited recall ability. So let's break down each one of these benefits. Trophies are these special decorations you can place on your house that give you buffs in crafting, gathering, damage to certain enemy types, and even increased chances at getting rare items. Now you get 5 trophy slots per house, but you can't have more than one of a particular type of trophy down at any given time. So we have this Major Arcana trophy over here. If I try to put a second one down, it'll tell me that I can't do that. So this is the main reason to be purchasing a second or even third house, because although I can only have, one Major Loot Look trophy within my Windsward house, within Everfall, I can purchase a second house here, and then in my second house, I can have my second Loot Look trophy, and so on and so forth, and then stack those buffs up accordingly, increasing my chances at getting rare loot. So we have a Major Loot Look trophy here, then another one in Everfall, and then another one in Brimstone. So we get 3 times the effect, basically. I just can't put down 3 in the same house. Trophies can be crafted at the workshop with the furnishing skill, but you can also purchase them off of other players via the trading post or player-to-player trading. The most important trophies to get on the walls of your house are the ones that increase your damage to certain enemy types. So the Corrupted Combat trophy at Minor, Basic, and Major, for a 3, 4, or 5% bonus damage to the Corrupted. These crafting trophies in particular are super important for max level crafting. Without them, it's impossible to craft items at the maximum gear score. Now, some people think that trophy buffs are only active for the settlement or area that you have the house in. This is not true. Trophies are a global buff, so although I have these Windsward trophies here giving me extra loot look and bonus damage to certain enemy types, this applies wherever I am in Aeternum. Storage chests are another type of furniture that you can place on your house and will increase the capacity of the storage shed for the settlement that you own the house in. So for example, we can see in my Windsward storage shed area, I have 4,675 as the max capacity. Now if I go ahead and open up the decorate menu and I place down this golden steel storage chest in my house, we're going to bump up an extra 1,000 in storage capacity. So I now have 5,675 total storage within Windsward. Now, unlike trophies, the amount of storage slots that you get varies depending on the tier of the house. So for trophies, you'll always get 5 trophy slots regardless, but the number of storage chest slots that you get, again, it depends on whether you have a tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, or Tier 4 house. Tier 1, which is also the cheapest house, only allows you to place down 1 storage chest. But Tier 4, or the most expensive house within a settlement, will allow you to place down a total of 4 storage chests. This is one of the main reasons to buy a more expensive, higher tier house. Now, just like with trophies, storage chests can also be crafted at the workshop with the furnishing skill, or they can be purchased/traded with from other players. There are also storage chests which can be looted as a rare drop when exploring Aeternum. Owning a house also allows you to recall to it whenever you like, making it very handy for quickly getting back to town to hand in quests, trade, or just generally move around the map. Now, unlike with the recall to inn option, you can actually reset the cooldown of the recall to house. So for a relatively small amount of Azoth, we can basically reset the cooldown and effectively infinitely recall whenever you want. So regardless of where you are in the world, you basically just have that button to teleport back to town, and then from there move around to any other location, any other settlement that you want to. Now, higher tier houses do have a shorter cooldown on the recall, but this isn't a big deal because the reset option is so cheap at just 20 Azoth. Another benefit of owning a house is the ability to show off. Houses have a scoring system that's based on how much furniture you have and the standing that you've recently gained in that settlement. If you have the highest score for that house, it puts you at the top of the leaderboard and is displayed publicly for everybody to see. So in this instance, we can see Melasso on our server owns this house along with all these other players, but Melasso has the highest score. He's got the highest points. So we are seeing his house being displayed right now. This is the one that is being visually displayed or publicly displayed to everybody on the server that walks past it. So that briefly covers the benefits of why you should buy a house, but I think it's also important to mention where you should buy a house as well, as there are currently quite a lot of options on the map. Now, every settlement you can purchase a house in can also be controlled by a player-run company. Some of the players in this company will have the option to enable buffs for everybody who owns a house in the settlement that they control. So you can see I own Weaver's Fen on this server, and I have the option to start a town project to grant a buff to all players who own a house in this territory. We can increase harvesting yield by 20%. We can increase the gear score of armor that they make. We can even increase or reduce rather the damage that they take. So increase corrupted damage absorption, basically take less damage from the corrupted. Now, just like with trophies, these buffs are global, so they'll affect you anywhere you are in Aeternum, as long as you own a house and the buff is running. The most important buffs you can receive here are the ones that increase your gear score when crafting. For max level, some of these buffs are vital for crafting the best items in the game. Now, in quieter settlements like Restless Shore and Reekwater, I find these buffs usually aren't being activated by the companies that own the settlement. And because you cannot enable the buff yourself, unless you are the company that owns the settlement, I find it's usually best to buy a house in the busy settlements for your server. Now, these are usually Windsward, Everfall, and Brimstone Sands. After this video comes out, however, Cutlass Keys may also be considered a popular settlement. You can check what buffs are active for homeowners in that settlement by checking the town project planning board. So if we go and take a look at Reekwater's territory planning board here, we can see that homeowners in Reekwater are currently getting Hunter's Bounty and Engineer's Patience. So they're getting extra gear score when they make engineering items, and their skinning yield is increased by 20% for the next 3 days. You can also get a general idea of activity in this settlement by checking out how many town project board missions are active. So if we go take a look here, you can see that right now they are not upgrading the town or upgrading the fort. So usually when everything is, all of these are occupied, it's generally a good indicator that things are happening in the town, and that might be a good place to basically set up shop, buy your house over there. Once you do own a house in a particular settlement or territory, you can actually go into this drop-down menu. Can take a look at my Windsward house. It's providing me with the Chef's Passion buff. If I go down to my Everfall house, we're getting Lumberjack's Spirit, Engineer's Patience, and Armorer's Inspiration. So Everfall actually putting in the work right now. And then just out of curiosity, Brimstone Sands, currently getting me nothing at all. However, is that because I haven't paid my housing tax? No, apparently Brimstone Sands, just the company that owns Brimstone right now, are, just not setting up any buffs. So you can see how that would be a fairly big consideration for you as a player. Again, that the housing system and these buffs that are tied to them, sadly, are out of your control. But generally, by buying a house in Windsward, Everfall, Brimstone, the exception of Brimstone for this particular video, is going to net you the most amount of buffs. Now, it is worth mentioning that these buffs do not stack. So if I'm getting the Engineer's Patience buff from Everfall, and then we imagine in Windsward it was also Engineer's Patience, only one of those would be active. It doesn't double up. So you could look at it as a way that you could get 2 houses in 2 busy areas, and then your third house can kind of just be wherever you like the look of visually. Again, because typically by having a house in Everfall and Windsward or 2 busy regions, most of the buffs would be covered there, and then your third house, yeah, you could just go for the aesthetics in that regard. Along with the question of why buy a house and where should you buy a house, there is also the question of which house should you buy within each settlement. Now, most settlements will come with houses from tier 1 to tier 4. The higher the tier, the more the house will cost to purchase, but also will allow you to place more storage chests in the house, which, as we mentioned in the benefits section, will increase the storage capacity for the storage shed in that settlement. Tier 1 houses, which are the cheapest, at 5,000 gold, will only allow you to place one storage chest. Now, it's worth noting that the first house you buy per character gets a 9,000 gold discount on that house at time of recording. So you may want to consider purchasing at least a tier 2 house to start with, as with a tier 1, it's only 5,000 gold by default, whereas the tier 2 coming in at 10,000 gold, you can take a better advantage of that discount. You can see here this tier 2 house only costs 1,000 gold, when normally it would be 10,000, so we can take the full advantage of that first time discount. Generally though, I would recommend saving for the tier 4 houses. Although they require a much higher territory standing and also quite a lot more coin, I do think the extra storage space that they provide is very valuable, especially in the late game in New World. You can see here that in my Brimstone Sand storage shed, I have nearly 7,000 storage capacity, and I very frequently use almost all of it, and that's not including also all the additional storage I have in Everfall and Windsward. If you play the game for as long as I have, you will accumulate lots and lots of junk, which does have a value, but yeah, just from crafting and chopping down many trees, mining iron and stuff, you're gonna end up with a full storage shed, so you know, future you will thank yourself if you do make the effort to buy the bigger tier house so you can put more storage chests down in it. So that covers the basics of housing in New World Aeternum and why you should purchase one and eventually all three when you can. There are a few more things that I want to explain to you guys though when it comes to housing in the game. The first one is the paying of rent for each house that you own. So every 7 days from the day of purchase of your house, you are expected to pay rent to the company that owns the settlement your house is in. Now, if you don't pay this rent or you're a little bit late paying it off, you won't lose your house or any of the contents of the house, but the recall ability, the trophy buffs, and the extra storage capacity the house gives you will all be temporarily put on hold, meaning you won't get access to any of them. The second, however, you go ahead and pay the rent, which you can do by opening up the housing menu. So I have N for upkeep on controller. Let's just plug one in real quick and see what it's going to tell me it is. It's L1 plus whatever that is, the menu button. We can pay the upkeep, which is only 50 gold. As soon as we pay that, yeah, my trophies will be re-enabled. My fast travel ability will be re-enabled, and also, again, the storage sheds, the extra storage capacity also back in as well. So if we pay that one there, we then have, 6 days, 23 hours, and we have to pay another 50 gold. And of course, the higher the tier of the house, so tier 4 house, I think are 200 gold. But it is worth mentioning that this rent does not accumulate. So if I don't log in for the next 3 weeks or even longer, I'm only ever going to have 50 gold that I have to pay, or whatever that value is adjusted for the tier of your house. So don't worry about taking a break from the game and then coming back and needing to pay thousands of gold in rent. That's not the way it works. Now, you can reduce the cost of this rent, this upkeep, via territory standing cards. So as you do quests in an area, you'll see these cards pop up, and occasionally some of them offer a reduced upkeep for your house in that area. That's one way you can reduce this upkeep cost. Another way to do this is by being part of the company that owns the settlement you have the house in. So by owning Weaver's Fen here, you can see that we get a 20% discount on houses. This also includes the initial purchase of the house as well. So it might be worth asking in chat if you can get a temporary invite or membership to the company that owns the settlement for the house or area that you're interested in buying the house in. Finally, you can also sell a house by accessing that same menu that we have to pay our upkeep. If we go down to the abandoned house here, you can see that we get 50% of the original purchase cost refunded back to our character's wallet. So if you're looking to move to a different settlement, or perhaps like me, you want to upgrade from this tier 1 house to a tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 house within Windsward itself. So I'm staying in the same settlement, but I want to upgrade to a higher tier. I will still need to abandon my house. If you're at the housing limit of owning 3, and you want to get a house somewhere else, got to sell 1 to go down to 2 to go back to 3, or if you want to purchase another house in the same settlement, you can only have 1 house in Windsward one house in Everfall. You can't have two in Windsward, so if you want to change to a different plot location within Windsward, you will need to sell your original house, but be aware that you're only going to get back 50% of the gold that you spent on it in the first place. I think that pretty much covers all of the basics, but if you guys have any tips for your fellow New World players, feel free to drop them in the comments down below. And if you have any further questions about houses or anything else in New World Aeternum, make sure you come on through to the stream. I'm live pretty much every day over on Twitch. I'll put a link to my stream in the description down below. But with that being said, I will catch you guys all in the next video.